Hello to all my friends that watch our videos and follow along with the website. There's usually always one or two instances that I do like updates. There's been a lot of cases I have not covered. The political thing locally, the political thing nationally. Let me try to, if you go to my main YouTube site, I have 3 YouTube and I have other video sites, and I'll try to make it short. But if you ever Google or search on my YouTube for corruption and all these things, I don't repost those videos, but I leave those on. And it's dealing with a crisis in Nueces County, Texas, and Corpus Christi. And in my purview of friends on the streets, I had a friend of mine tell me a few years ago, now he did a lot of prison time. I saw some of my friends today, I didn't see that one. He said, "John, it's so crazy here." He said, "You can commit murder and be on the street, but you can rob a CD player and get 60 years in prison." He gave me a case that involved like somebody else he knew that was not a friend, and he had a shot, but maybe self-defense. We had a case in Nueces County, Texas. We have cases that make it to the national media saying that this place is so backwoods. It was a murder case out of Nueces County. Tried in Nueces County. Might have been one of the other cities that are in Nueces County, but it wasn't Corpus Christi. Either way, one person targeted to murder another person. And that person got in their vehicle and intentionally murdered the other person. The defense was, yes, that night I was there to murder, and I didn't have a gun, so I murdered them. This was acknowledged in the court. That person got probation for an intentional homicide in Nueces County. That made it a little bit to some national news because they thought, what the hell, and I'll try not to curse. Okay, I just found out now. I have a son-in-law, and he married one of my daughters this last year. And of course, some people have pasts and things, but I always, try to help my friends, especially someone that's a son-in-law related. And one day, just watching the news, because I read the news, there was a robbery in a store. Nobody was injured and nobody was hurt, but they requested money. There's questions of whether or not it was him, and whether or not they located a weapon that was used. But what you had in this case, and his name is Mingo, you had, I just found out, I asked, because I found out the results of this case. I said, was it a plea bargain? He got 60 years in prison this week. There was no plea bargain. I guess he maintained his innocence. And when I just saw it on the news one time, I didn't know. I had no inside information. I just said, oh, it looks like my son-in-law. 60 years, and must do 80% of that time for not a murder, but for a robbery. But because they say he had a gun, 60 years in prison. I have a friend, I'll tell you, and I testify to you the truth, who murdered 2 people. 2. Still with a gun, walking around. No time. One of the murders was right outside of his garage. He told me that when they showed up, and it was either local PD, this was the first murder he committed, that they said, oh, there's going to be a problem because he's outside of the house. So you kill the second one. And he said, this is what he told me. That one of the law enforcement picked up the body and drug it right through the threshold and said, don't worry. That was a homeless man. And I never got the name. It might have been a friend. This week I helped one of my friends that I posted on, who brutally, with a big knife, tried to murder another friend of mine about 3 years ago. Okay, I covered that case. It was Dirk in Tennessee. I saw the witnesses today. Dirk is out on the streets, and he cut the order, severed it. I went and visited Tennessee in Memorial Hospital or Spawn, but either one I went to see him, and he told me, John, and all the doctors have been coming through to see me because they said it's a medical miracle that you survived your order being severed. Dirk and I try to help Dirk. Dirk is on the street. There was no felony. You can murder multiple times in Nueces County, Texas. Not one, not two, but three. Still be on the street, carrying a weapon, and get 0 time. But you could be someone struggling, which is, we certainly do not recommend robbing Circle K or 7-Eleven or anything. And you will go to prison for 60 years with the guarantee that you will do 80% of that time. You can admit in the court, this was Nueces Court, that you targeted with your vehicle to kill. It wasn't a mistake. You targeted to murder and kill, and you get probation. All I could say is, when the public sees my videos, they realize that this place is not viable to locate, to start a business, or to live. Now, I am not defending my son-in-law that he should not, if it was him, but 60 years. And I know people on the streets who have committed multiple murders. And according to the testimony of one, law enforcement pulled the body over the threshold so they would say, now you're safe. What a disgrace to humanity this county is. I've talked about cases of judges and courts and all types of things in Nueces County and Corpus Christi over the last many years. I see my friends, and then I see some officers over the years that they had altercations with, meaning the officers brutalized them, targeted them, and beat the shit out of them. And then I look and I say, what a joke. What a joke. What a joke. So let the public know. There's a lot of other things. I wanted to just show you that, and that was off the top of my head. We had a case, I covered this last few years, and it was a multiple murder case. This was right in our region. And during the trial, it was one group, it was maybe gang related, but they murdered somebody else. 3 witnesses were murdered, one after another, as that case went to trial, right in this region. The last witness had to recant, and that was it. What city in the U.S., there was no resolution to that, meaning the 3 other homicides of the witnesses of a murder case, that's it, done. As far as I know, I've not read any resolution, whether they just took it as, well, those were maybe people that were in gang lifestyles or whatever, and therefore if they murdered the others. And I remember a statement from a local official when we had a bunch of, I was in my yard the other day, God's honest truth, which you will not get from this county. Working on my website, there was a gunshot right there. I heard my neighbors, because I'm quiet when I'm doing my work, They heard it too, right there. And then you hear tires screeching. This, in Corpus Christi, and that's not the first time we had drive-bys. You don't have like areas that, this is considered, I'm very close to the water, a few hundred yards. And the properties here are priced very high, to my dismay, because of my taxes. You don't have like areas that are considered, okay, avoid that area. No, whether it's whether it's a $1 million mansion neighborhood, whether it's Padre Island, you have rampant crime. On the island, they're robbing the boats, they're going in the neighborhoods. You have rampant crime that is just unstoppable in Corpus Christi. And you should have some type of the scripture talks about equity and judgment. If you could have someone do 60 years in prison for going into a store and saying, give me $10 or whatever they got, and you could have other people, multiple homicides, brutal slicing of their orders, killing multiple, and still on the street of this city, you have a huge corruption, criminal, backwoods crisis in Corpus Christi.